Hi, Fred Schaefer here, author of 50 Fit. One of the most common email questions or comments I get recently is, hey, I invested in 50 Fit, now I'm just waiting to get started. And that's usually an indicator of a person who is suffering from what is known as all or none thinking. All or none thinking is actually a psychological diagnosis. In the little diagnosis book, they call them all or none thinkers. And reality is, all or none thinkers are rarely successful in anything they attempt. So we need to think about, how do we overcome all or none thinking, and where does it even come from? Have you ever said to yourself, if I can't do it all perfectly, I'm not even going to make an attempt? Many people say that. But have you ever noticed that those same people, that once they decide they're going to make an attempt, they try to go from doing nothing to doing everything perfectly? It just cannot be done. And that's why all or none thinkers rarely make it, because they try to do from nothing to doing everything perfectly. And the minute that they mess up or miss a day or make a mistake, they say, hey, I knew I couldn't do this, I'm a failure, and they give up altogether. Well, all or none thinking is really driven by fear of failure. That's why people do that, because they want to go from doing nothing and they want to escape any chance of failure and try to do everything perfectly. Again, none of us, including me, can do that. So we don't want to be all or none thinkers. We want to think what I like to call progression, not perfection. A number of years ago, I was speaking at a conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I spoke there all day long on fitness, nutrition, health, and wellness, and had done a bunch of different sessions. And there was one lady in the audience, she kept coming to all my sessions, and she was a heckler. She kept bothering me, and I'd never met her before. I couldn't figure out why. Maybe she just doesn't like bald guys, I don't know. But the last session of the day I was doing was called Thoroughbreds Don't Eat Twinkies. It was on high performance nutrition. And I started speaking. There were about 200 people in the room. And I looked around to see if she was there. She wasn't there. I was happy to see that. But just as I got to speaking, she came walking into the room and sat down back in the corner. And I intentionally avoided eye contact with her. But when she walked in, I was talking about the value of having a good breakfast. And that studies had come out recently that showed people who skip breakfast on a regular basis are at a 10% greater risk for type 2 diabetes and heart disease. And I was just talking about the value of having good breakfast. And as I got to talking discussing these things, she stood up and she started yelling at me right in front of everybody. She said, "You are crazy. I'm an adult woman, okay? And I've never eaten breakfast my entire life, and I'm not starting now. The very thought of breakfast makes me sick to my stomach." She said this right in front of everybody. She's standing up. So I had to have a response for her. So I thought to myself for a moment, and then I asked her a question. I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you like candy? She said, yes, I like candy. I said, well, what's your favorite type of candy? She said, Milk Duds. I like Milk Duds. I said, so let me ask you this. If you could take a box of Milk Duds, empty it onto your kitchen counter, could you wake up in the morning, walk out into the kitchen, and pop a few Milk Duds? She said, I could have Milk Duds? What's she saying? She could eat breakfast. It's between her ears. Now, are Milk Duds a good choice? Not really. Maybe add a little bit of milk to it, and maybe you'd be getting somewhere. But anyway, I went on and talked more about the value of having a good breakfast. And so she came up to me after I was done speaking, and she said, you know what, Fred, maybe you're onto something. My doctor warned me that I'm at risk for type 2 diabetes, and I've been having some trouble shedding this excess body fat here. Maybe I will give this a try. I said, no try, Mary. I said, you heard what Yoda from Star Wars said about try? Do or do not, there is no try. So Mary, no, do not try. What I suggest to you, however, is to make a commitment to improve by 10%. 10% over this next year, 10% over this next month. So here's my suggestion to you, Mary. Take your box of Milk Duds and sit it on your counter. And then each week, go out and take away 10% of the Milk Duds and replace it with something healthier. Start off with some lean proteins for your breakfast. Egg whites is the highest biological value. Lean ham, cottage cheese, whey protein, anything like that. But you're going to take away 10% of the Milk Duds the first week. The next week, go out and take away 10% of the Milk Duds and replace it with some high fiber fruit. You want to get some fruit in there. Berries are great. The next week, take away 10% of the Milk Duds, replace it with try to get some greens in there with your breakfast. Anything you can get in there. Bell peppers are great at breakfast, anything like that. The next week, take away 10% of the Milk Duds, replace it with some high fiber carbohydrates, oats, whole grain breads, anything like that. And then the next week, go out, you're basically just going to keep doing this. The next week, take away 10% of the milk duds, some healthy fats, avocado, peanut butter, anything like that that you can work into your breakfast for satiety. But the point was this: progression, not perfection. Take away 10% of the milk duds, replace it with 10% healthier. I said, so that's what you do, Mary. Progression, not perfection, is the key to overcoming all or none thinking. Well, it was about a year and a half, 2 years later, I went back to Indianapolis, speaking actually at a different conference. And I was walking through the conference center, and all of a sudden, it's a big conference center, but way off in the distance, I hear somebody calling my name. And I turn around and I look, and way off in the distance, it's Milk Dud Mary. And she's running towards me. It was kind of like Chariots of Fire. She's running slowly. She's forever away, and I had to get to another appointment. I'm like looking at my watch, but I could see she really wanted to talk to me. So she gets up to me. She's all huffing and puffing. She's like, Fred. I said, what? She goes, Fred. I said, what? She's all excited. She said, I just wanted to tell you that I am all the way down to 1 milk dud. Progression, not perfection. That's the same way that you're going to be working on your fitness, health, and wellness. Do not wait. Start now. Even if you can only do 10% of the program, wake up tomorrow morning and get started. Progression, not perfection.